Let's go, motherfucker.
Yo, what is good, people? It's your boy Trey Monies. So before we get stuck in, I just wanted to take a quick look at psychology and my thoughts as an SMC trader, and hopefully positively affect you guys that are trading SMC. So let's go. So right in front of us, looking at this chart, we have a chart that shows your risk rewards from 1 to 1 up to 1 to 5, and your win rate probability. So for example, one good thing that I love about being an SMC trader is that you don't need to have a high win rate. So for example, me personally, I aim for 1 to 5s, and so as you can see on the graph there, I just need a 20% win rate to be profitable. And that leads on to another thing, and that leads on to the reason as to why I decided to do my funding challenge with my Forex funds. My Forex funds actually give you an extension of 2 weeks if you are in 6% profit, which is amazing. Another thing that a lot of people don't actually know is that they can actually provide you an extension even if you are below that 6% profit target that they require for the extension. So for example, it's provided that you are above the initial balance of 0, your account balance has some positive balance. I don't know, it could be 1 cent, 1p, whatever you want to refer to it as long as you are in some sort of profit, does not matter if you are below the 6%, you get an extension. So that's one reason why I decided to take my challenge with my Forex funds. Right now, I went back to the drawing boards and I decided to change how I take my trade entries. I haven't done anything drastic, because one thing that I hate is, one thing that I did do previously as a trader is that mid-challenge I'd change things, and that's one thing that I hated doing because that means I wasn't ready for the challenge. And so what I've done this time is, what I've changed is how I enter the trades. Now I haven't changed anything about the strategy. I still trade the exact same way as I did prior to when I made my first video. The only thing that I've changed now is using limit orders. And I know one thing that I mentioned with my last videos is that I wait for rejections. I'd either wait for a bullish rejection on the POI or a bearish rejection on the POI. What I now do is just set a limit. And the reason why I've decided to set a limit is based off of the chart that you see in front of you. Now the chart illustrates that you don't have to have a 100% win rate to be successful as an SMC trader, provided that your risk reward is about 1 to 5, even 1 to 4 at a 30% win rate, even 1 to 3 at a 30% win rate, you will be profitable. And of course, I know sometimes you won't always get that setup that gives you a chance to enter the trades. Provided you are in profit, you will have an extension given to you by my Forex funds, which is another reason why I decided to take challenge with my Forex funds. So how I'll trade, I'll show you in the next bit when we move over to trading view. But long story short, essentially, I was doing some back testing over the weekend because I didn't actually get a trade for the entire week. Like I mentioned, I'm a little bit conservative, but I was doing some back testing, comparing the two between each other, comparing the rejection and comparing certain limit orders. And what I found is there isn't too much difference. So at the moment, from last month, the previous month of trading where I managed to get my capital to buy my challenges, I had a 50% win rate, and that was using my rejections. But what I realized is, had I used limit orders, I'd also have the exact same win rate of about 50%. And of course, as you can see looking at this chart, as I mentioned to you guys, I use a 1 to 5 risk reward on all my trades. 50% I'm more than likely to be profitable, especially using 1 to 5. And what I realized is, using these limit orders, I'd actually reach 1 to 5 a lot quicker than I would do in comparison to using rejection, or where price rejects from a POI. So that's my reasoning. I'll show you pretty much my thoughts and why I've decided to change. So just to provide some visual examples of what I was talking about in terms of the comparison between why I've changed from using rejection over POI to using limits instead. So let's have a look at this trade. So this was the first trade that I took of the challenge, and this was on the Tuesday last week. And this is my first trade. So I actually didn't notice this trade here. I actually took this trade, which resulted in my loss. So I'll explain this trade briefly. Again, if you want to have a little bit of a more detailed look into why I took this trade, have a look at my previous video. But essentially, on the 1 minute time frame, the reason why I took this was the extreme order block that we had in here. And like I mentioned in the prior video, I waited for a rejection order of price at that zone. And as you can see, price traveled up to 1 to 2, but this line here is where I go break even. So I go break even on the swing high or low that caused the mitigation of your zone. As you can see, it was marginally away from hitting that. Bruh, my toolbar's in the way. 1.3 pips away from that for me to warrant a break even of that position. As you can see, price just crashed down. But if I had taken it as a rejection order from here, this would have been a 1 to 6, and this is something that I noticed is when I was doing my back testing from last month, going over my rejection and limit orders. I noticed that these trades will actually hit 1 to 5 way earlier than a rejection order, but the rejection order or the rejection trades from a PY, would actually save me a lot more losses, but the losses weren't significant in terms of being a massive day and night difference between the two. So for me, that's the reason why I've decided to go back to taking limit orders. Again, if we were just to look at this, for example, because I actually missed this one when I was trading, I didn't actually pay attention to this one. But again, if we were to have taken this, same story. If we took the bullish rejection, no difference. If we was waiting for the limit order to tag in, no difference. They both would have been a result of a loss. Let's have a look at another one. So this is another trade on the Thursday. So I wasn't actually present to take this trade, but it's a good example to have a look at in terms of had we taken a rejection order or had we taken a limit order. So the idea came from, we had a M5 internal break of structure, we had our inducement, we had a decisional candle in here somewhere, and then we had our extreme candle down here. Price came in, tapped our extreme order block or extreme internal order block. We had a change of character on the 1 minute time frame. Then we had our inducement, then we had a POI. Again, same as the prior example, that first trade resulted in a loss. Had we taken a rejection order, would have been a 1 to 1. Had we set a limit, it would have been a 1 to 2. This is the trade that actually pushed to give profit. Again, similar scenario to the prior trade. Had we taken a rejection, we wouldn't have seen any profit from this. It would have been an actual loss for me. Again, I take partials of 1 to 5, and then I trail my stop loss. I trail my stop loss using MT4, so it's just an automatic trail that goes as soon as I hit either my break even or I hit 1 to 5. And essentially my stop loss just trails 10 pips behind the trades. But anyways, had we taken a limit order, we can see that price would have gone to 1 to 5. So this is again another example of why I've decided to now switch to taking limit orders instead of just waiting for the rejection. Plus, it's a lot more peace of mind. Once I've seen that inducement taken, I can just set my pending orders at these 2 points or however many points there are, and then let the trade do its thing. And then okay, moving to current pricing. So this is the trade that I took today, and again, this trade took inspiration from the 5 minute time frame. So we had a change of character over here on the 5 minute time frame. We had our inducement swept, our decisional order block over here, and from there we had price tap in, which was the trade that I actually took today. So if we zoom in on the 1 minute time frame, we can have a deeper look into it. So here we had our change of character, we had our inducement taken, and once the inducement taken, I chose the POI. And why this POI? This POI with the indicator, just to make things a little bit easier for our eyes to see, we can see that this candle took liquidity towards the left hand side of it, and therefore once price tapped into it, we then triggered our entry to allow us to enter the trades. But I don't know if you guys can notice, I have a green line here. I was actually taking out break even before price could actually hit my 1 to 5. So in terms of when I go break even, again, just to repeat, just to make things nice and clear for everyone that's watching, I go break even once the high or the low, in this particular example, this low came in and caused a mitigation and then broke structure. So once this structure here was broken, I could then go break even by a few pips. And unfortunately, price actually came back up to tag me out before it dropped, and I think this bit of price drops quite a decent amount before it turned back around. So that's just annoying. That's just what it is. So at the moment, I'm still down 0.5%. But again, just to show the example of had we taken a rejection order, this would have been actually a 1 to 3, and I would have had to wait slightly longer. And again, this is where it comes into play, where waiting or using a limit order actually will get you to your target a lot quicker. And again, that's another reason why I've decided to now start using limit orders. And just to show you the final trade over here, guys. So this is from the M15 time frame. And what we're looking at over here is that we've had a change of character. We're now bearish. We've had our liquidity taken here. I know some people might disagree with me with this being the liquidity, or sorry, inducement being taken, but the way that I see this bit of price action is I see it as this. And so this leg here, this recent high, is the liquidity or inducement that's been taken. And of course, once that's been taken, we then look for our decision order block. And in this case, this here is our decisional. I didn't actually take this trade because this is outside of my trading time. I was tempted, but I will not let FOMO defeat me. Right here, we had our change of character. We had our inducement. We had our order block. And we had price tap in and actually power straight through it. Price then continued to push higher. We had a change of character. And the reason why I would have taken this without inducement is because this candle here took out the previous high towards its left via a wick. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with it from other SMC communities. This is actually called an FU candle. So it's taken all the liquidity on the left hand side and decided to drop. So that's enough for me to enter the trade and take it. And again, an example of when I got break even from the low that caused the mitigation of your POI. But of course, a bit messy in terms of price action here, but essentially that's the idea behind when, why, and how I go break even. But that's pretty much it, guys. So far on my challenge, I'm currently down 0.5% or 0.6% with the commissions, etc. I'm not too stressed. I'm not too worried about it. Like I said to you prior in the intro, it doesn't really matter. I'm an SMC trader, and I like to aim for 1 to 5. So when that good 1 to 5 setup comes in, the 0.5 that I'm down is going to just be cancelled out, and I'm going to be hopefully in at least 2% profit. So far so good. Time is of the essence. That's just one thing that I'm concerned about. But of course, if time does run out, probably what I'll do in the last week, I'll probably risk a little bit more to just get myself over the threshold again. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Hopefully we can catch up again tomorrow with a new trade, and I can explain the breakdown of that. But other than that, guys, see you when I see you.